So today I'm here with my friend Nick in Kaen, and I'm going to be asking him some questions about his life here in Kaen. He's been living in Thailand now for 6 years, is it?
Yep.
So here in Thailand for 6 years. What is unique about his predicament though, unlike many people I talk to on the channel, is he's been working here as well. So it's not often I get to talk to people that have both been living and working here. Many people I talk to on the channel, as you know, are retired. And thanks for agreeing to let me ask you some questions on your life here. And I guess we'll start with where you originally from and what brought you here to Thailand.
All right, yeah, so I'm from North Carolina, USA originally. So came here about 6 years ago. I guess kind of like after graduating college, probably a similar story to a lot of people, you know, just not sure what to do with myself. Didn't know what job I wanted to do. So, and I guess for me at that time, I was pretty into studying Buddhism, and I knew I wanted to like teach English and try that out, travel, you know, teach English. And I was recommended that I should go to a Buddhist country. So I was kind of choosing like, you know, Thailand, somewhere like that.
Burma.
Exactly. And in the end, kind of landed on Thailand, came here, been teaching English ever since. Yeah.
And how did you get the gig? How did you get the job?
First was with an agency.
Okay.
So I did my like TEFL course, came here with an agency, was in Jaipur province for about 5 years, and actually moved to here, Kaen, about a year ago.
So you were teaching in Chayapum as well?
Yeah.
For anybody else out there that may be interested in teaching, you've done 2 schools now. I've actually taught in about 4 schools as well since being here. But it was a long time ago when I taught. What would be like the going salary, like the income you can make teaching in, was it a university you were teaching in?
Yeah.
Or?
I would say like the range is about 30,000 baht per month to 45,000 baht per month is what the range I've seen.
Yeah. And do you think now these days it's enough to live on?
I've been living on it for sure. Some people would disagree. I mean, I live pretty simply, so it is absolutely enough to live on. I think the common theme you hear from people who've done TEFL is it's not a career, you know. If you want to work and travel, or live a simple lifestyle, then, you know, it'll work for you. If you want to like really establish yourself and, you know, make like actually good money to build a retirement, something like that off of, most of the people either change jobs or go into like international school.
Because there isn't a huge amount of opportunity in Thailand that you can teach. You can be a diving instructor, perhaps do your own business these days as well. Is it something that you could see yourself doing long term or?
Well, I guess that's kind of where I'm at now, is that I can't see myself doing it long. I guess I'm a little bit burnt out. Teaching happens to a lot of people, you know, just it's a lot of performance, you know. I'm kind of introverted, so I love teaching. I love the concept of it. But I'm just a little introverted. Some days I'm just not in the mood to like be a performer, because mostly a teacher is just a performer, you know, to engage the listeners. And on the days I'm feeling fine, okay, cool, you know, but on the days I'm just tired, it's just like, it's pretty rough to push through.
So since partnering up with Fruiting Body Mushrooms based right here in Thailand, I have received a lot of feedback from subscribers, actually not just here in Thailand, but all around the world, including Australia, the UK, and even Sweden. People that have tried reishi, lion's mane, cordyceps mushrooms from Fruiting Body. As I've shared before on the channel, there are a number of case studies, such as Wendy here in Sweden that tried out cordyceps mushrooms, or my friend and subscriber Graham that tried out the lion's mane, which had various effects on his ability to speak with people and actually just feeling quite an elevated mood. However, if you are going to try out a functional mushroom, the most important thing is your choice of supplement. It's really important that you choose one that is not just mycelium on grain or starch fillers, capsules that are filled with other things than the full fruiting body of the mushroom, because it is the fruiting body that contains the active compounds that are shown to have the beneficial impact. For example, as we've seen in the study from Queensland University in Australia, lion's mane has been found to help nerve regeneration and could therefore be important in the prevention of Alzheimer's in later life. And that's why I've been recommending Fruiting Body mushrooms for nearly 2 years now, because I know their process and I see the work that goes in at the back end. And so I'm confident that their mushrooms are full fruiting body and no funny business going on. They now ship worldwide, so you can check out my link below in the description and the pinned comment. And as ever, the most important thing for me is you report back and you let me know how you get on so I can share that information with other subscribers on the channel. And so you've now, after 6 years, decided to leave Thailand. And why is that?
I guess this past year, I started working at the university, and it just wasn't what I was expecting. The job was not really that great. The conditions of the job, the pay was not great. And I just thought with myself, like, what am I doing here? You know, I'm like, I feel like whenever I go back to the US, it's like 50,000 baht for a plane ticket. And then everything else is so expensive. It's like, if I'm going to stay here, I kind of have to stay here forever and never hope to like have a life in the US again, you know? So it's like, it's just not worth it, you know? I want to find some like financial stability, you know?
Is there anything that you miss about the US? Anything in particular you want to get back to? Or is it missing family or? It's
mostly family, maybe a few friends. Yeah, this future's quite uncertain for me now. It's a pretty complicated situation, but I mean, she's a teacher in her town, a government teacher, and she's kind of like stuck with her. She doesn't like her job so much. It's a lot of work, but she's kind of stuck with it because the money's kind of okay for her. It would be cool to get her to go to America, but that's not a simple thing to do. And if you quit being a government teacher, you go back to square one.
Oh, you start again.
Yeah, so it would be a big risk, you know, to just go and start a new job. So she has to be certain that she has something guaranteed.
Let me ask you about your time in Thailand, 6 years. What do you think has been the biggest learning? Like, what do you think it's made you a better person in some ways? What have you learned from it that you can kind of go away thinking, yeah, this was it was worth going. The experience was worth it because I learned this about myself or about being in Thailand or...
Yeah, that's a good question that could have a lot of different answers. I guess I learned a lot from people here. People here are very like considerate, very kind, you know. I think in America people are very, you know, individuals, and I mean there are plenty of nice people, but I've learned about like being a lot less selfish, you know, and it's not just selfish, but like, you know, being considerate and helpful to others, you know, thinking of others first.
Yeah, there's like a crowd mentality, a community mentality over more of an individual mentality in the West, right?
Yeah.
And what has been the kind of biggest culture shock or surprise about your time here? What were you surprised to see from the Thai way of life? Or
it'd be hard to narrow it down to just one thing, but I guess like they're very subtle people, you know, they don't always say exactly what they're thinking. And so sometimes they'll be like trying to say something to me, but I'm not picking up on it. I'm like, oh, okay, well we can just do it. But really they're trying to say no, for example, but they just find reasons it won't work instead of just saying no, we can't do that, you know? Yeah, and I don't pick up on it, things like that.
Yeah, I think the idea of saving face as well, not being overly critical, that's one issue, right?
Yeah.
We like to keep it real on this channel. Not everything is like great and fantastic about Thailand. There's a lot of wonderful, beautiful things, but not everything always goes to plan. So
yeah, I mean, I guess as a foreigner, we can touch on the topic of like being always kind of an outsider. This is I think a lot of people disagree on this subject. Some people say no, like I fit in fine, you know, it just depends on who you meet. And this topic in particular, I guess I want to talk about is like it's just an example that shows you about kind of the attitude here is the entrance fees to like national parks, things like that, which is a very like a lot of foreigners disagree about. It's not a big deal versus like it is kind of a big deal of like, so the foreigner price to go into national parks is usually like 5 to 10 times the Thai price. And it's not based on your tax or residential status. Like I pay taxes here, but still, and I kind of like make just a Thai wage. I'm not like rich by any means, not even close, just normal Thai wage mostly. But I pay like, you know, 5-10 times to get into the park, which some people will say it's not really that much, you know, it's just let it go, you know. And for me, I guess it's not about the price so much, but as like being seen as an outsider, right? Like seen as like foreigners, they're all rich, you know, they all have lots of money, and they're not the same as Thai people, you know. And it doesn't matter if you live, it doesn't matter how long you've been here, but you're still just seen as someone foreign, outside. And like the path to citizenship, for example, is really complicated. and kind of imbalanced. They definitely don't really make it easy to apply for citizenship here. There's a lot of requirements.
I mean, we get a lot of this on the channel too, and I'm always split between the two. For me, the biggest issue is the fact that you pay tax.
Yeah.
If you pay tax, it's a bit different. Like, if you're a tourist, I think that you should pay more because you don't contribute via your taxes to that national park. But if you pay tax, then you shouldn't. And like you say, a number of my subscribers will agree. A number of them will be like, no, it's not a big deal. So, but I understand it's a very subtle hint towards the fact that you're still an outsider, even after so many years.
Exactly.
Right? It's very hard to integrate in a very nationalist country. I think it's good that Thailand is a nationalist country. It protects its country. It's protectionist, and that's a good thing. It's going to keep it Thai. But at the same time, you'd think after a number of years living here and paying tax that you would get some kind of special treatment to a tourist that maybe just comes 2 weeks of the year, right? So you're in Kaen. What's it like as a city to live in? Is it a vibrant city? Is there much going on here, or is it a bit boring?
It's kind of like a medium. It's like not a huge city, you know. It's no Bangkok. I think it's the perfect balance between like big city but not too big, you know. If you want to experience the real Thailand, you can come here, but still not be out in the rural areas. You know, we have lots of different kinds of food, different places to shop. So it's got all the benefits of a big city without being too big, you know. And there's not many foreigners here, relatively.
But it sounds to me like you're probably not coming back.
I wouldn't say that. It's just there's no plan at all whatsoever.
Just no plan.
I'm gonna see what my fate is, you know. Hope to make some money and maybe come back. But to be honest, like looking even 2 months into my future, I don't know what the plan is yet.
It's just an open book, right?
Yep.
So if you did come back, would you choose Kaen or would you go and live somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean it's a nice little place here. Probably either Kaen or Chayapum, just because these are the places I already know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would recommend it to people who like, you know, big cities but not too big.
How did you find your colleagues who you taught with, the other teachers? Was it a good, friendly environment? Like if somebody was to come and teach you and didn't know anybody, is that environment that they're going to step into going to be a friendly environment in your opinion or not?
Yeah, for me it's a little bit. So you're specifically talking about Kaen, right?
Either in Chayapum or Kaen, like the teams that you've joined, because often people will come and teach, they're not with friends. So are they kind of, in your experience, has it been kind of a welcoming group, a social group, or does everybody kind of keep to themselves?
Yeah, so for my most recent job at the university, I was kind of like, didn't spend a lot of time with coworkers because I would just drive from my apartment to my classes, which would be in different, you know, faculties around the city or in the university area. Mm-hmm. I didn't have like an office or anything, so I would just meet coworkers if there was like a meeting or something mostly. There were some very nice ones, some were just kind of okay. I had like one really, really nice, very kind-hearted coworker that really made an impression on me. Thai coworker. Met some of the foreign coworkers here, but they kind of keep to themselves too. Mm-hmm. Back in Chayapum, I definitely made a lot of connections with a lot of different coworkers that you know I still like remember today, and we don't keep in touch, but maybe, you know, from time to time we'll say hello.
And so what would you recommend to somebody that was going to be coming teaching in Thailand? What would you recommend to set kind of realistic expectations, and what would you prepare in advance? Like what kind of headspace do you think you need to be in? Were you naive at first, or were you quite clued in to know what to expect?
I think like having fewer expectations is better, because like I feel like a lot of teachers come into this thinking of how it's supposed to be, but you can't really predict how like the classrooms in Thailand are going to be until you've been there yourself, you know. The first few weeks is always really difficult for new teachers. On many different levels, so like limit your expectations, kind of be open-minded. I think the most important thing for living and adjusting here is to like learn the language and get into that as fast as you can, because it'll open up a different side, you know, that many people just never kind of access.
What about the quality of education? Because I've worked in a number of schools here, and in one of the schools that I was in particular, they were still caning the kids. So hitting the kids on the hand, which I think is like really, really outdated. I was taught in 2 good schools, but 2 of them I felt were quite backward in the education. What do you think about the quality of the education here?
I think how can I say it?
You got to say it nicely.
Yeah, right. I mean, they've got like 50 kids in a classroom. There's quite a lack of discipline. There's like this no-fail policy. The subjects are kind of taught, like they teach them just to like answer like 1 + 1 = 2, you know, but they don't really teach them critical thinking so much. I mean, you know, the students can just never show up to a class ever and still pass, you know, things like that. So I guess the education system is not highly valued here in the way it should be.
Did you find any particular improvement in the private schools?
So my private school is kind of a small town school. It was relatively new, like less than 10 years old. So I would say it was like kind of a step up from just the generic public schools. They were still struggling to get themselves established too.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
this was kind of like they would learn like 6 days a week. So Monday to Saturday, it was kind of like a hardcore school. I think a lot of the kids were kind of overworked at the private school too.
It sounds like you've had quite a mixed bag experience, like positive and negative, but you can see that whatever your path forward is, it's not long-term teaching in Thailand. And so it's time to go back to the States, even for a small amount of time. Do you think, when you say earn some money there, do you think you'll be working there, and what work would you go into?
Yeah, so I want to eventually get myself into something I can do remotely. I don't really know what yet. I'm thinking computers because, you know, computers are relevant. Everybody needs them. There's a lot of different areas you can get into. Hopefully something involving consulting someday, you know, like I want to take certifications and just get myself established so that I can be more selective with my work and make decent money.
How old are you, Nick?
31.
So you're 31 now, and could you see then maybe doing 5 years and then traveling again, or do you think you're going to have to be longer in the States?
Yeah, I'm hoping as soon as possible. So my plan is to like save and invest as much as I can. Once I hit a certain number to where I've got consistent passive income, then I'll be free to like do the work I really want to and not have to worry about the money or, you know, being connected with my visa to the employer.
What would you say, like living in a condo, you just have like a 1-bed condo. Living in a condo, what would you say your monthly expenditure is realistically?
Including like food and everything?
Yeah, everything.
So I live pretty simple. I kept everything, like expenditures, to about 15,000 baht per month. Yeah.
That's really impressive.
Yeah. So like I said, you know, it depends on your lifestyle. Because I'm a saver, you know, I save my money. I value like freedom and experience more so than like, you know, buying things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your condo is included with the school?
No.
Or you have to pay yourself?
Yeah.
And how much do you rent a condo here in Khon Kaen?
This one is 5,500
Okay.
baht per month.
So, and there's lots of properties available, right? Lots of condos available here. So when you say you're spending 15,000, does that include your condo too? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's good. So mainly your main expenses were just kind of food?
Just food, yeah.
And going out with a girlfriend sometime, or?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, just food, daily expenses.
So you've actually been able to save?
Yeah.
That's quite rare
Yeah.
for the teachers in Thailand, right?
Yeah, because I mean, I'm like I said, I'm into like Buddhism, the simple life. You know, I'm kind of like into like I live a very simple like kind of. I admire monks. You know, like spiritual people like that who keep things super simple. You know, I spent about 30 days in the monastery as a monk here. That was one of my goals. So I just love to. I don't need a lot. You know. Mm-hmm. I save for my freedom so that I can, you know, help others and be of service to other people without having to worry about my money too much.
As some final thoughts, could you summarize like your whole experience in Thailand? You know, the good, the bad, the ugly, and you know anything you might have learned along the way coming to live here.
Yeah, it's definitely been lots of good, lots of bad. You know, people are great. The culture is great. You know, there's nowhere quite like Thailand. There's no country that is the same as Thailand. It's so unique, so special. You know, people are very kind and nice, but also, I don't know, people can be very inconsiderate in other ways too, like burning trash, you know, filling your house with smoke, playing loud music at all hours of the night, things like that. And you have to learn a lot of patience and just relax, you know, like if people who cannot relax, it's hard for them to be here. You have to be able to just like let it go, you know, just because people here are really chill, you know, they're like really chill. They don't take things very seriously. and that's another. Some things you should take seriously. You know, there's like the whole Maipenlai culture. But a foreigner friend of mine, he's like, well, yeah, but some things you should take seriously, you know, but they don't here. But overall, very positive experience. I think it's great. I hope to come back someday. You know, I would recommend it.
I think I thank you for your honesty as well, because a lot of people may not come on and be as honest as you've been about the reality of the situation. It's people think I'd love to live in Thailand. It'd be sunshine. It'd be fantastic, and for the rest of my life, it'd be like a holiday. But it's often not like a holiday, is it? Especially when you're working.
Yeah, very true. Very true. You got to temper your expectations, because it is great. I think there's this. Everybody talks about the honeymoon phase when you move here, but after that, reality sets in, and not everything's perfect here. I highly recommend it. Love it here, but it's far from perfect. There's many downsides.
So thanks for jumping on, Nick. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, even though we're in the peak of nature. There's flies buzzing around, and we probably a cafe next time. But we're going to go and get a coffee now. And thanks for coming on, Nick. I appreciate it.
It's been an honor.
And I hope you guys have learned something today from this little chat. And yeah, I hope it's useful for anybody thinking about coming to teach, especially in Khon Kaen. And thanks again to Nick for sharing his story.
Avoids a road closure in 7 kilometers.
ขอบคุณมากครับ ครับ ครับ ครับผม security. Can you imagine being that happy, guys, as a security guard? Always shocks me. Simple Thai people doing bloody hard jobs where they got to stand there all day, opening and closing a gate, but yet they're so happy. So I'm just checking where I'm going on the map. Happy people doing simple things.